My stepdad, James, stumbled onto my webcam secret, his threat to tell Mom rattling me. I teased him silent with a bold play. She was off selling houses, unaware of our dance, while it escalated quickly. One stream changed everything, intense, covert. What broke it apart? Pure shock. I was deep into a late-night webcam session in my attic room in Austin, Texas, the soft glow of my LED ring light casting shadows on the slanted ceiling, when the door clicked open and James stepped in, his expression cold as ice. I'd left it unlocked, assuming he was out cold and Mom was still at the real estate office, closing deals late. The chat was alive, tips pouring in, my outfit daring but calculated, when he stopped dead, eyes flicking from the screen to me, saying he knew exactly what I was doing. My gut twisted, and I muted the stream fast, swiveling in my chair to face him, the room silent save for my laptop's faint buzz. He's a 62-year-old mechanic, always fiddling with engines, and now he'd caught my hidden hustle. I stood, pulling my cardigan tighter, and told him to keep it quiet, that it wasn't what he thought, but he stepped closer, jabbing a finger at the screen, saying Mom would lose it if she found out. His voice was low, clipped, like he was already planning how to break it to her, and I knew I had to derail this fast. I crossed my arms, leaned against my desk, and asked what it'd take to keep him quiet, my tone cool but firm. He blinked, thrown off, and said I couldn't charm my way out. I smirked, stepped toward him, and said maybe I didn't need words, maybe we could work something else out. He didn't move, just stood there, arms folded, his work boots scuffing the hardwood, and said I was making it worse. I tilted my head, let the cardigan slip slightly, and told him he didn't have to tell, he could just watch and see how it played out. His eyes darted down, quick, then back up, and he muttered I was crazy. I laughed, low, and pointed out he hadn't walked away yet, had he? The chat pinged behind me, fans asking why I'd gone silent, and I turned, unmuted briefly, flashed a smile at the camera, and said I'd be back with a twist. James's jaw clenched, but he stayed by the door, unmoving. I brushed past him, my shoulder grazing his arm, and grabbed a soda from my mini fridge, taking a slow sip while he watched. I said he could stay pissed or join the game, his choice. He rubbed his temple, said I didn't get how bad this could go, and I stepped closer, catching the faint scent of motor oil on him, saying it didn't have to go bad at all. His hand twitched, hovering, and I saw the shift, doubt, interest, something. Hey, you all out there, ever see a trap close before the bait's taken? That's where I had him, wobbling. Then his phone chirped, a text, likely a work buddy, and he pulled it out, glanced at it, snapping the tension. I seized the moment, sat back at my desk, and said we'd pick this up later. He knew where I was. He pocketed the phone, gave me a look that could have been fury or more, and left, leaving the door cracked. I unmuted the stream, laughed it off, but my heart was racing. He'd seen too much, and I'd just lit a fuse. Downstairs, I heard him clattering in the garage, and I knew this was far from done. The next morning, I wandered into the kitchen, still in my sleep tank and shorts, the house empty with Mom already out at the real estate office for her weekend open house. James was there, standing by the counter, cleaning a carburetor, the sharp smell of solvent in the air. He didn't look up as I entered, but I saw his shoulders tense, he felt me there. I grabbed a stack of dishes from the sink, clattered them onto the counter to get his attention, and started washing, letting the silence build. After a moment, he set the part down, wiped his hands, and said we couldn't act like last night didn't happen. I kept scrubbing, slow, and said I wasn't acting. What was he planning to do about it? He leaned against the fridge, arms crossed, and said he should have told Mom the moment he saw that screen, his voice flat but sharp. I turned, drying my hands, and asked why he hadn't then, my tone playful, prodding. He didn't answer, just stared, and I stepped closer, grabbing a dish to dry right beside him, my elbow brushing his side. He said I was pushing too far, and I smirked, asked if he liked the show last night. His face reddened, quick, and he looked away, muttering I was trouble. I set the dish down, leaned in closer, hands on the counter near him, and said he didn't have to snitch, we could keep this between us. He shifted, his arm bumping mine, and said I didn't get what he'd be risking. I tilted my head, let my hair graze his shoulder, and told him he'd risk more by talking, why not take the easy path? He gripped the counter, knuckles pale, and said I was making it sound too simple. I laughed, stepped back, grabbed another dish, drawing it slow, letting my fingers linger, saying it could be simple if he let it. He watched, his breathing heavier, and I turned it up, stepping in again, my hip brushing his jeans, and asked what he really thought about last night. He said he thought I was nuts, but his eyes stayed on me, not the carburetor, and I grinned, saying nuts wasn't a no. I reached past him, grabbed a rag, wiping the counter slow, my arm grazing his chest, and he didn't move, just stood, caught. I said he could have left last night, but he stayed. Why? He rubbed his face, said he didn't know, and I leaned in, whispering maybe he wanted to know. Then the dishwasher beeped, shrill, breaking the spell. I stepped back, grabbed a clean glass, and tossed him the rag, saying he could think it over while he cleaned up. He caught it, held it too long, and said I'd regret this. I smirked, said we'd see who regretted what, and walked out, hearing him mutter as I hit the hallway. I knew I'd pulled him in deeper. He wasn't telling Mom, not yet, and I wasn't done. By afternoon, I was in the living room, tinkering with my laptop on the coffee table, prepping a quick stream while Mom was still out, showing houses. James walked in, carrying a wrench from a morning job, and paused when he saw the camera angled on me, my top snug but subtle. He dropped the wrench on the table with a clank, asked what I was up to, and I said just keeping the fans happy. Want to join? He shook his head, said I was insane, but lingered by the couch. I hit record, smiled at the lens, and started chatting about random stuff, traffic, tacos, keeping it chill as viewers joined. I glanced at him, saw him grab a water bottle, open it, and lean against the wall, watching sideways. I turned up the heat, spinning to face him, and said live to the camera I had a guest today, my fixer. The chat exploded, questions flying, and I waved him over, saying it'd be fun. He froze, bottle halfway to his mouth, and said I was out of my mind, but I patted the chair next to me, grinning, and told him to relax, no one would know. He hesitated, then stepped over, slow, setting the bottle down, muttering this better not backfire. I laughed, said it wouldn't if he played along, and nudged him into frame. The viewers went crazy, guessing who he was, begging for more, and I leaned closer, elbow on the table, my shoulder brushing his, saying he was just here to help out. He shifted, stiff, and said something about the water being warm, his voice flat. I grabbed the bottle, took a sip, handed it back, my fingers grazing his, and told the chat he was shy but cool. Didn't they think so? He shot me a look, half warning, half else, and I bumped his knee under the table, subtle. He didn't pull away, just sat, letting it unfold, and I knew I had him. I turned to the camera, asked what they wanted next, and someone typed make him laugh, so I grabbed a spoon, held it like a mic, and asked him on stream what his worst job was. He smirked, said swapping a rusted transmission, and I laughed, saying he'd survived worse than this. The chat loved it, tips pinging, and I leaned closer, my arm against his, whispering off mic that he was good at this. He muttered I was trouble, but his hand stayed near mine, and I felt the spark grow. Then the microwave dinged, I'd forgotten a burrito heating, and I jumped up, breaking the moment, telling the chat we'd be back. James stood, grabbed the burrito, tossed it on the table, and said I'd get us caught. I smirked, said not if he kept up, and sat back, pulling him with me. The stream continued, but the air between us was denser, charged, and I knew he wasn't just playing to hush me, he was in it. A few nights later, I set up in the basement, a chilly, cluttered space with brick walls and a flickering fluorescent light. Mom was out at the real estate office, likely pitching a condo, and the house was ours. James was there, messing with a broken fan, tools scattered on the floor, when I set my camera on a crate, angling it to catch me in a fitted tee. He looked over, asked what I was doing, and I said we were going live, together, for real. He dropped the fan, wiped his hands, and said I was going too far. I grinned, hit record, and told him to chill, it'd be our secret. The stream kicked off, chat buzzing as I waved, saying I'd brought my mechanic to mix things up. James lingered by a shelf, hesitant, but I dragged a stool over, slid it beside mine, and patted it, telling viewers he was shy but skilled. He muttered I was nuts, but sat, arms crossed, eyeing the screen warily. I leaned in, my shoulder brushing his, and asked the chat what they wanted. Someone typed fix something, so I handed him the fan, saying live he'd show his magic. He took it, started prying it open, and I narrated, teasing he was my hero down here. Tips poured in, viewers hooked, and I slid closer, my knee nudging his under the crate, saying he was stealing my shine. He smirked, kept working, and said I'd pulled him into this, he wasn't stealing anything. I laughed, rested my hand near his, fingers close, and told the chat he was a keeper. Didn't they think so? He gave me a sideways glance, his hands pausing, and I nudged him again, deliberate, feeling him tense but stay put. The air thickened, the laptops hummed the only sound beyond our voices, and I knew we weren't just performing anymore. I turned it up, leaning over to grab a screwdriver from his tools, my arm sliding across his lap slow, and handed it to him, saying he'd need it. He took it, fingers brushing mine, lingering, and said I was making this harder than it had to be. I whispered, off mic, that he liked hard, and he gripped the tool, jaw tight. The chat kept rolling, some asking who he was, others flirting, and I played it, saying he was my secret weapon, winking at the lens. He finished the fan, held it up, and I clapped, my hand on his shoulder, lingering, warm against his shirt. Then a bang came from upstairs, a neighbor's door slamming, and James flinched, dropping the fan, muttering we were too loud. I paused the stream, told the chat we'd had a glitch, and turned to him, saying we were fine, no one would check. He stood at pace to the stairs, and said this was getting dumb. I smirked, said dumb was fun, and followed, standing close enough that he stopped, caught between me and the steps. He looked at me, said I'd ruin us both, and I stepped up one stair, eye level, saying not if we were careful. He didn't move, just stared, and I knew I'd hooked him deeper. The next evening, I set up in the garage, the fluorescent light humming as I propped my laptop on a workbench littered with James's tools and oil cans. Mom was still at the office, probably sealing a deal, and the house felt empty. I'd talked James into another stream, saying we'd do a quick one to keep the fans engaged. He grumbled but followed, tugging on a jacket over his tee, his steps heavy on the concrete. I hit record, the camera catching me in a cropped tank, and waved, telling the chat my mechanic was back for more. James leaned against the workbench, arms crossed, and said I'd owe him for this. I smirked, said he'd thank me later. The stream started, viewers flooding in, and I handed him a busted lantern from a shelf, saying live he'd make it glow again. He took it, started unscrewing it, and I slid closer, my hip brushing his, narrating that he was the real star tonight. He snorted, said I was full of it, but kept going, popping the bulb out while I rested my elbow on the bench, my arm grazing his side. Tips pinged, comments flying, some calling him rugged, others wanting more, and I leaned in, my shoulder against his, saying he was a hit. He glanced at me, said I was the one riling them up, and I nudged him with my knee, feeling him shift but not pull away. I turned it up, grabbing a wrench from the bench, holding it like a prop, and asked the chat if they thought he could teach me a trick. Someone typed show her, so I handed it to him, my fingers sliding over his slow, and said he'd better not flop. He took it, his hand brushing mine, lingering, and started tightening a loose screw, muttering I was a handful. I laughed, leaned closer, my chest nearly against his arm, and whispered off mic that he liked handfuls. He tensed, shot me a look, but kept working. The chat went wild, begging for more, and I played it, saying he was too good, maybe too good for me. His hand slowed, the lantern fixed, and he set it down, turning to face me, his leg pressing mine under the bench. He said, low, that I was making this more than a game, and I tilted my head, my hair brushing his shoulder, saying maybe it had been more for a while. His hand dropped to the bench, fingers inching toward mine, and I shifted, letting them touch, light but electric. The garage felt smaller, the air heavy, and I knew we were past pretending. This wasn't just for the stream anymore. Then Mom's ringtone blasted from James's phone on the shelf. She was calling, asking why the garage light was on so late. I froze, heart pounding, and he grabbed it, answering fast, saying he was tweaking a project out here. I muted the stream, waved at the chat with a forced grin, and whispered for him to wrap it up. He nodded, told her he'd lock up, hung up, and turned to me, saying that was too close. I unmuted, laughed it off on camera, saying we'd had a light scare, but my pulse was hammering. He stayed put, his hand near mine, and I knew we'd dodged it, but the pull between us was fiercer than ever. It was late Saturday night, the den dark except for a table lamp casting a warm glow, Mom still out at the office chasing a big sale. I'd set my laptop on the side table, camera off, just sketching out the next stream, when James came down from his room, a coffee in hand, his jacket open over a worn tee. He saw me, paused by the armchair, and asked why I wasn't live tonight. I said I needed a breather, but maybe he could help me plan. He grunted, sank into the armchair, and said I'd pulled him into enough already. I smirked, pushed the laptop aside, and told him to sit closer. Two minds were better. He paused, then moved to the couch, settling a cushion away, coffee still in hand. I shifted, tucking my legs up, my shorts riding high, and asked what he thought about a big stream tomorrow, something bold to keep the fans hooked. He sipped his coffee, set it down, and said I was obsessed. I laughed, said he was part of it now, leaning toward him so my knee brushed his thigh. He didn't move, just watched me, and I pushed it, scooting closer, saying we made a good team. Didn't he think so? He rubbed his neck, said we made something, all right, and I rested my elbow on the couch back, my arm near his shoulder, letting the silence build. His eyes met mine, steady, and I knew he wasn't backing off. I turned the heat up, sliding my hand to the cushion between us, fingers grazing his leg, and said we could plan something fun, keep it our secret. He shifted, his knee pressing mine, and said I was making secrets hard to keep. His voice was low, rougher now. I leaned in, my shoulder against his, and told him he didn't have to keep them alone. I was right here. He set his hand on the couch, brushing mine, and didn't pull back, his fingers curling slightly, testing. I tilted closer, my hair falling near his face, and said he hadn't run yet. Why not? He said I was too good at this, and I grinned, shifting so my leg draped over his, slow, deliberate. He tensed, his hand sliding to my knee, gripping light, and said my name, sharp, like a line he wasn't sure he'd cross. I swung my other leg over, straddling his lap, knees sinking into the cushions, and rested my hands on his shoulders, feeling him stiffen but not push me off. He said I was crazy, his hands settling on my hips, and I rocked forward, saying maybe he liked crazy, didn't he? His grip tightened, pulling me closer, and I slid my hands down his chest, fingers curling into his shirt, the fabric warm under my palms. The room shrank, just us, the lamp humming faintly, and I could feel his breath quicken, matching mine. I leaned back, hands still on him, and said we'd been circling this too long, time to move. He pushed up slightly, shifting me forward, his hands roaming to my waist, tugging me until I was flush against him. I arched, pressing harder, and he groaned, low, his fingers digging in, sliding up my sides slow, deliberate. I twisted, letting one leg slip off, standing between his knees, and pulled him up with me, my hands fisting his jacket. He stood, chest to mine, and I backed him toward the wall, his hands still on me, guiding. We hit it, my back against the plaster, and he caged me in, arms braced, his body pinning mine without closing the gap. I tilted my head, my hands sliding to his arms, gripping, and said he could stop me. He didn't. He leaned closer, his forehead almost brushing mine, and said I was wrecking him. I shot back that he was wrecking himself, staying this close. His hand dropped, tracing my hip, then up to my neck, thumb grazing my jaw, and I pushed into him, my chest against his, feeling him tense. I hooked a leg around his, locking us tighter, and he pressed harder, his other hand sliding under my shirt to my lower back, warm, steady. I gasped, arching up, and he pulled me off the wall, spinning us back to the couch, dropping so I landed on his lap again, straddling him, hands in his hair. I tugged, light, and he grunted, his hands roaming my back, pulling me in until we were tangled, no space left. I rocked down, slow, feeling him respond, his grip tightening, sliding me closer. He said we couldn't, I said we were, and leaned back, hands on his chest, pushing just enough to tease. He pulled me forward again, hands on my thighs, and I shifted, grinding light, drawing it out, watching his face twist, caught. Hey, you all out there, ever feel it build until it's ready to snap? That's us, right here, dangling on the edge. I slid off, stood, pulled him up, and back toward the stairs, his hands still reaching, my fingers hooked in his belt loops. We hit the bottom step, and he pushed me against the railing, his body hot against mine, hands sliding up my arms, pinning them overhead. I arched, chest brushing his, and he pressed harder, every move slow, deliberate, teetering. His hands dropped, one gripping my waist, the other tracing my side, and I twisted, pulling him closer, my leg hiking up his. He slid me along the rail, his breath ragged, and I tugged his shirt, hands roaming his back, feeling him shake. We were locked, swaying, the tension screaming, and I whispered he could walk away. He didn't, just held me tighter, his hands everywhere but still in bounds. Then my laptop pinged loud, a new message in the stream chat, popping up unprompted. I froze, glanced over, and saw a stranger's username. Great show, Nina and James. I've got your IPs. James stepped back, hands falling, and I rushed to the table, slamming the laptop shut, heart pounding. He swore, asked what that was, and I scrolled the message. Some hacker viewer had cracked our setup, knew our names, and typed a threat, pay or he'd expose us. James grabbed his coffee, downed it, and said we were done. I stared at the screen, pulse racing, knowing we'd gone too far. The next day, I packed a duffel, told them I was crashing with a friend, and bailed, posting this online because it's too heavy to hide. What he texted me after? That's the real kicker.